Oh,
We
there
got
we
it
go.
together.
There we go.
Man, what a pleasure, bro. What a pleasure.
My,
I can't lie.
my
You got the
man.
setup. When I saw the setup, I thought that was just like a screensaver.
Yeah,
It
no,
looks
this
so
is
clean, bro. Yeah.
we built the studio from scratch. Yeah.
Nah, that's smooth, bro. That's smooth. Yeah, man. So the pleasure, bro. My podcast. I started it. I say about 10 weeks ago, and I've had 8 guests on there, and they've all been super intriguing, bro. We talked about financial freedom, inclusion,
Mm,
growth. It's based around mental health, so really breaking down stories and understanding what makes people tick. You know why
yeah.
they're on the journey they're on, right? And there's so much inspiration in that perspective and learning. So man, I'm excited to have you on the show, bro. And
Well,
just
thanks for
kind of
having me, man.
pick your brain because
Yeah.
we've had a chance to work together and play together, play against each other.
Yeah.
And fortunate enough, I've been able to just see you from afar and watch your growth in this
Yeah.
short span and what you stand for. And man, I love it. And to
Thank you.
know about a part of your story that you've mastered so much in this time on earth, from mixed martial arts to being drafted to the NBA, the big three, now politics, right? This journey that you're on is amazing. And I want to dive into it, but I want to go to Little Royce. I want to talk about the boy and
Yeah.
you know what what things were significant in your childhood that you think steers you, into having this journey that you're on right now.
Um, a lot. I mean, everybody's childhood contributes a lot to the way they eventually end up. For me, it was probably growing up an only child at first, just me and mom. Dad wasn't really there. So I had the good fortune, and I do say it's a good fortune of being raised by the village, so to speak, right? We talk about being raised by the village. I was really raised by the village. I was fortunate to have a lot of men in the community that taught me a lot of good life lessons. In the absence of my father. And I was also fortunate that while my father wasn't there, I had uncles, I had two grandfathers that were living, I had, other people, other male figures in my immediate family that served as good role models. So um again, part of being an only child and part of what I think was so beneficial was I got a little bit of something from everybody. So it taught me a lot of different perspectives, even though whereas in some ways it can be beneficial, but if it's just your parents and you're always with just your parents, you become a reflection of a smaller a smaller thought process. So I was fortunate in that way. And then when I was like 12, 13, I kind of hopped off the porch, as they say in the neighborhood, and I was kind of fending for myself. And then I really learned a lot from the community and from the village, and I also saw a lot of the ills. I also saw a lot of the turmoil. I saw a lot of the tragedy. I saw a lot of the things that would become become the why that I fight for today on so many different levels with so many different issues. So it was really the way I was brought up. But the one thing I can say, credit to my mother, was she was always encouraging me to read. She was always encouraging me to think outside the box and to be informed. And so I grew up with that. I grew up with books in my room. In my bedroom, I had bookcases of real books, not kiddie books, real books. And I learned to read early, and that was definitely instrumental as well. So that took me right up to being a high school basketball player. Obviously, for us, for a lot of us that end up being professional, we come to a place in high school where we're the guy, right? Yeah, at least in our respective city or state. I ended up being Mr. Basketball, but a lot of us have a similar story in that way. So once you reach that level of elite basketball, it changes your life. And I tell my son now, both my sons, that part of that boy mentality, part of that boy wonder that I had before becoming an elite player, I had to give up to become an elite because it's so competitive. You gotta have a dog sort of mentality is what we call it, that intensity, not only to get better on your own, but then to go out and prove that you're better or compete at a high level when you're with other players or against other teams. So in the later part of my teenage years, I kind of became an asshole,
Hmm.
and I think becoming an asshole helped me. It pushed me on the journey to having that existential anxiety that I ended up dealing with, and then ultimately it forced me to look at myself in the mirror to be able to deal with that anxiety, and then once I was able to cross that hurdle or overcome that obstacle, the whole world opened up in terms of what I could do to help other people.
Right.
So
Right. And you talk about that anxiety. Talk about that. When did you? Was that something that you felt you always had? Is it something that came about? Was it a outside factor that maybe brought something about? Because with my anxiety, I know I remember a lot of vocal, I had to deal with a lot of vocal abuse.
mm,
You know what I mean? So, in different wild times of the night, just different times. So that brought about a lot of my anxiety. I had to learn how to deal with it and understand that. So, was there anything that brought that about? Was it just something that maybe was inherited? Because sometimes, we deal with that as well.
yeah. Um, It's hard to say. I'm still not sorted yet on where I stand in terms of how much whether or not or how much anxiety, depression, any of these mental health issues are genetic, nature versus nurture, or is there a catalyzing event? Is there one inciting moment? For me, what I can say with certainty is the first time I smoked marijuana was the first real panic attack I had, a significant panic attack
Mhm.
where I really thought I was going to die. There were other times when I was younger, even that I can remember having what I now can identify as I was having panic attacks. But
Right.
the first significant one was 16 years old, smoked marijuana for the first time. Because even though I was out in the neighborhood and I was moving around on my own, I had family members and elders that always encouraged me not to use drugs or marijuana. So that just wasn't a part of my life. But that first time smoking marijuana, I thought I was going to die, and then I had panic attacks for like 3 months after that,
Mm.
3 times a day, and that was probably the worst time of my life because number one, panic attacks feel like you're dying actually,
Yeah.
but number two, I had no clue what they were, so I actually
Mhm.
thought I was dying. When I
Right.
found out that they were panic attacks, it got better, and it's gotten better ever since. I still have some on occasion, but they're few and far between now.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it was that I was born with it. I'd say genet predisposed to have anxiety, maybe.
Right.
But again, see, that's part of the narrative with mental health that I had a problem with the NBA, right? Is like they wanted to say that the Royce Whites and the Larry Sanders who talk about having anxiety are the ones that we need to build the culture or the attitude or the rule around. And even more so, they're the rule and the exception. And I had a guy tell me that from Bill Simmons is what was then Grantland. His name was Chuck Klosterman. He's a pop writer. He said, "Well, aren't you just the exception? Like at that high level of athletic competition, wouldn't the arena select basically select you out or people like you who deal with anxiety?" And my whole fight with the NBA was, of course not. All these guys are dealing with mental health issues of some variety. They
Right.
might not know what to call it. They might not come out and tell you. They may do a better job of hiding it.
Hmm.
They may want to hide it forever.
Right.
I
Right.
just don't want to do that. So I think people get this false perception like the people who have anxiety or who got diagnosed with anxiety or who tell the story about anxiety, those people have anxiety and I don't. It's like, nah, no, you got some issues. We all have some
Hmm.
issues.
Right.
What it is a different conversation. So I don't know if people are born with it or not. I think everybody's born with some anxiety, to be honest.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about the panic attacks. I dealt with those too at a young age. At a young age, and it was when my mom would leave, I would have these panic attacks, and it was
Mm,
separation anxiety. And
Mm,
yeah, learning that, man. But I didn't even remember I was having these panic attacks until I was like 20,
mm,
22, going into the NBA. And that's when I actually started smoking marijuana. Was my second year in the league,
mm.
to deal with a lot of stuff that was going on. But that was the way I coped, and
Yeah,
it was banned at the time. So that
yeah.
was my struggle. That was my struggle with the NBA, trying to convince them
Crazy.
of, yeah,
Crazy how fast things change, ain't it?
yeah, yeah. But it has to be some change makers too. Some people got to put their foot down
Yeah,
sometimes and take a risk and take the what is seen to be a L. You know what I mean, for everyone else. But you know how that battle goes, bro. And I
right.
wanna I wanna talk about that more because you are on that journey and you do take a lot of risks. You say a lot. You
Yeah,
put yourself out there, and like you said, you have children, man. You have a family, so um, people see the forefront, but they don't know how many people are standing behind us who we also represent, right?
right.
Who we also put out on the line when we say and do certain things. So I really commend you on that. That's a lot of bravery it takes
Thank you,
to do
man.
that.
Thank
That
you.
people understand that.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
mean, it's, yeah, to that point, it's, I get criticized all the time, like, first it was the NBA. It's funny when I ran for Senate, there's this Twitter account called Legion Hoops, I think, and they always break stuff about sports, is basketball mainly. It was all over the world. And when I announced I'm running for Senate, they broke it. And the number one comment was, "Ain't this the guy?" I mean, a lot of people liked it and just like supportive, but the number one reply was, "Ain't this the guy who's afraid to fly?"
mhm,
And it's just like it's crazy to me how fast a lie can get up and go around the world twice before you can ever put your pants on. That's a famous Winston Churchill quote.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just like, I was thinking about this the other day, is just one, how 10 years could go by and the mainstream media do such a good job of misinformation and propaganda that people actually still believe that. I
mhm,
mean, it's almost it's unbelievable when you're the person who the misinformation is about, but then
right,
it started to help me understand how misinformed people are about all kinds of shit. Like,
mhm,
no wonder the world is the way it is. Y'all are brainwashed. Y'all are being lied to, and not only do you accept it, you seem to act like you like it. You seem like, for me, I'm slow to go to a conversation between Larry Sanders and Royce White and comment on some shit if I really don't know what I'm talking about. Like,
mhm,
I'm slow to do that. Not that I'm ashamed if I say something that may be wrong or I'm worried about saying something that's wrong, but just off of, like, where did I get the information from? What are my sources? Do I trust those sources?
mhm,
Like, when I led the George Floyd protests, I heard all these people saying the whole system is guilty. The whole system is guilty. The whole system is guilty, not some of the system, the whole thing. But then you go back to Google to get all your information. I'm like, who you think Google is?
right, right,
Who do you think Apple is? Who do you think CNN is? Who do
mhm,
you think MSNBC is? Who do you think Viacom is? I mean, what do y'all mean when y'all say the whole system? Do you know what you mean? See, I know what they think they mean,
mhm, right,
but they don't know what they actually mean, and that's what's been revealing to me throughout the whole thing, even with my story. And that's why I bring it up, because seeing how many people believe the narrative that the NBA told about me helped me understand how many people are lacking information that they need to understand any of what's going on in the world, let alone with their own mental health.
right, right. No, for sure. What's the escape? What's the way out? What do you see as what's the answer to this problem? Because like you said, I can see how someone could formulate an idea, um, but they're trapped in this box of
Yeah,
perception.
yeah.
So how do you escape that? What's the key?
Well, the truth is the key. And then people will say, well, how do you know what the truth is? No, it's not as hard as people think. I mean, first off, the truth is what you can see, feel, touch, hear, and smell. I mean, there's God-given senses that were granted to us, that were gifted to us, that we use to navigate the world. So that's part of it, is like, tell the truth about what you see and what you hear. It's I mean, that, so there's that. But people would go, "Well, what's the truth about all these other things?" And the first thing you have to do is get off the hamster wheel. It's like if you're not even willing to get off that wheel, then you have no chance. What saddens me more than anything, and this may seem dark and somewhat depressive, but it's really not. It's really more revelatory and hopefully could be a source of hope and optimism for people who choose to do it. But imagine how many people died living a lie, living in complete darkness about what's really going on in the world around them. And,
Mhm.
it's just like that saddens me when I think about it. Like, I
Mhm.
had a grandmother I lost, and she watched CNN every day. And now she was a wise woman, and some of your wisdom comes from really living and interacting. But a lot of the way you form the world, especially when you watch a lot of television, is what you're told. And I just think to myself, like, man, I'm sad that people that I know, love, care about, or anybody in the world would die under this cloud of lies. And so the escape is just like for me, again, when I encountered the NBA basically going to the media and saying, "This kid's AWOL. This kid's too scared to fly. This kid doesn't wanna play. This
Mhm.
kid isn't that serious about basketball," instead of what it really was, I was a kid that understood the prevalence of mental health in general and that I wasn't the only one, which you would later you would later shortly after come and prove, followed by a bunch of people who would prove the point
Mhm.
that we needed some policy. Our collective bargaining agreement didn't have a single mention of mental health in the entire document, and I didn't
Mhm.
think that was by accident, and I didn't think it
Right.
was by accident that the banned substance list had drugs that are used to cope with mental illness or substances that are banned that are prescribed for mental illness. I didn't think any of that was an accident. I would
Right.
later figure out that it wasn't an accident, but that's not
Right.
the point. The story they told about me is this not only the story that people believe, but they wanted to believe, and that's what I was interested in. I'm not
Mhm.
so interested in why people lie. I know why people lie. I'm more interested in why people wanna believe the lie,
Mhm.
why people wanna believe in the comfort of the lie, and
Right.
that saddens me, and that motivates me because I push
Mhm.
people to get out of that. That's what I've been doing at the Big 3. I know people wanna believe the story they told. I know it's easy.
Right.
But there's something the grass is greener on the other side once you know the truth, and once you
Right.
get there, you experience it, it's like it's a whole new world, so it's
It
worth
is.
the risk, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
No, for sure. The reward is definitely worth the risk, and you preach it to the choir, bro. So,
Mhm.
um, what when so it came out. They said you couldn't fly, and I think that was the immediate, like, that hit the headlines, and that's what everybody saw, and no
Yeah,
one like, people don't follow back. People don't really circle back on things. They see it for what it's worth. They see the face value. They take it, and they don't even dig too far deep. I knew it was deeper than that personally,
yeah,
because I knew I was times I didn't want to fly. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Just because I didn't want to fly because of what I was going through, and so I knew it was deeper than that. And I was looking forward to you actually getting a chance to tell that story. And
mhm,
when we talk about the NBA, we try not to dive too deep. And you're a deep diver when you
yeah,
speak, but you still tend to tread.
mhm.
Um, what's your reservation?
About what, the NBA?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't got no reservation about 'em, I at all. I mean, I've always been straight down the pipe on them. I mean, I could go as deep as you could possibly go on the issue. I mean, with me personally, my personal story is just a microcosm of what the NBA represents. The NBA represents a much greater uh, corporate and political culture around
Mhm.
the world. And that's what I was saying even then, is this ain't about the 350 basketball players who you're now going to make it seem like are divas and we want special treatment for our mental illness while the rest of
Right.
the country suffers from mental illness with no help. That's not even what it's about.
Mhm.
What it's
Mhm.
about is the people who own the teams in the NBA are the same political lobbyists and corporate elites that set the culture of the medical industrial complex all around the country for all citizens.
Mhm.
And so, when I look at a David Stern, I don't see David Stern. I see, for lack of a better uh, example, uh, I see Joe Biden. I see, any company, any owner of any company. I see any local mayor or any governor or any doctor or head of a medical board or whatever the case may be. So I see it as one corporate community because it is, and they've showed that over the last few years, if nothing else, that when decisions get made, and it's a widespread belief that everybody has to follow along.
Mhm.
And I was saying back then, well, why don't we follow along with trying to improve how we think about mental health? I mean, why are we being so selective with where we want to make this collective improvement? I don't
Right.
think it's by accident. And so, with the NBA, for example, is like with me, I said, okay, if you guys want to say it's about me not wanting to fly, I'm saying don't act like 40 years ago you was only sending players on buses. So don't talk to me about team camaraderie. Like if I don't fly on the chartered plane with the rest of the team, then me and my teammates can't form the same bond that
Right.
would allow us to win because that's stupid.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's not even how athletes work. That's how nerds think. And there are a lot of nerds in those front offices that think they can analytic their way to the culture and the sort of intangible thing that a team needs to be great and mesh together and buy in and win. And it's got nothing to do with how much time they spend on the plane playing Boo-Ray and eating fucking Cheez-Its or whatever they're eating. That has nothing to do with it, right? And that's why only one team wins. But regardless, my point is they want us to say, well, if you don't fly, now you're getting special treatment. And I say, well, what's wrong with me driving from Minnesota to Chicago? 6 hours.
Mhm.
What's wrong with me driving from Orlando to Miami? What's wrong with me driving from DC to New York or New York to Boston or Boston to Philly or what's wrong for me driving Houston to Dallas or Dallas to New Orleans or Memphis to Atlanta? What's wrong with that?
Mhm.
Well, we just never had anybody do that before. Well, okay. I mean, motherfucker didn't shoot threes before until y'all switched to put a three-point line in either.
Okay. Right. Right.
What is the issue? And
Mhm.
so what when they didn't have an answer for what the issue was with that, because there was no real issue with that,
Mhm. Mhm.
they invented one. And that invention is what they took to the media to try and assassinate my character and say that I wanted special treatment. It's not special. I
Mhm.
don't like to fly. I don't want to have to take Xanax, which was on your banned substance list because of how dangerous it is and
Mhm.
addictive it is. I don't want to have
Right.
to take a Xanax or a sleeping pill every time I fly
Mhm. Mhm.
over a course of a 9-month, 80-game season. So every
Right.
time I get the chance, let me drive.
Mhm.
Now, if I got to fly from New York to Los Angeles, fine, then I'll bite the bullet and do that. Or if
Mhm.
it's a back-to-backers, I'll do that. And
Right.
that we
Right.
actually sorted that out. At the end of the day, when I brought up that point to the NBA and their doctors, they had to agree. They were like, "All right, well, you got us. You're right." I mean, there's really no that's reasonable because all the doctors agreed it was reasonable,
Right.
but they
Right.
took that personal
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a young athlete who was on the other side of the line of collective bargaining
Mhm.
had caught them up in some bullshit, and now it became, "You're a danger to the rest of these Negroes. If
Mhm.
you if the rest of the Negroes find out that you are smart enough to point out the the holes in the way we've constructed this collective bargaining agreement, who knows what you'll spark up? You might spark the union to hold out."
Mhm.
Because what I did was my own personal holdout as a player, and that's dangerous.
Right.
What I did was say, I'm not playing until y'all explain to me why it's considered a salary cap infringement for you to provide transportation, ground transportation from Minneapolis to Chicago. Why would that be considered a salary cap infringement?
Mhm.
What kind of insurance, what kind of political insurance scam do y'all got running and think you could run on me like I'm dumb?
Mhm.
Y'all think I'm those Negroes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not those Negroes. You can go find them, the ones who don't read their own contracts, and I feel bad for them, and I hope that the next generation I can influence to come up and understand their own contracts. That's why the NBA would never certify me as an agent because they know the type of guy I am. But the point is I'm not that Negro. I know how to read. You got a banned substance list here for one reason: to punish us. You want to stand over us as the institution and say, We'll let the fans come, get drunk, throw shit, yell shit, get their fanatic rocks off because they're paying, but you better dare not use any substance to deal with the stress of that or whatever else comes with the professional. But we can't. Oh, how many GMs are getting cocaine tested for cocaine or marijuana? How many maybe the coaches are, but I would even doubt that maybe the coaches
Maybe
are.
once,
How,
maybe once a year.
how many referees are getting tested for cocaine and how many here's the better question. How many team owners?
Mm.
How many team owners are getting tested for marijuana? Oh, because you're not playing, you don't have to abide by the same. So now you're saying that you can't play while if you're high on marijuana. We know that's not true because
Mm.
people were smoking weed the whole time and playing well, or people
Right.
were getting drunk. Michael Jordan was going out, getting drunk, smoking cigars till 4 a.m, coming and dropping 30. So
Mm-hmm.
what are we really saying? What they're really saying to me, what they were really saying to me and you and everybody else is stay in your fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
You are here to play, and that's it. And all of our fans accept that you're only here to play. Anything else is seen as a distraction from the, from the escape.
Right.
Everybody's there at the NBA to escape their reality in a sense, but the players, we're not. This is our job. So, I just wasn't going for the shit. I'm like, I keep the money. No,
Mm-hmm.
because now we got an issue that's way greater than the basketball shit. What you're saying is I'm stupid. And what you really mean to say is all you Negroes are kind of stupid. And that's exactly what this liberal establishment does. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what these Democrat, neoliberal, neocon, political, corporate, cultural elites have done to this entire country. And that's exactly who they are. And I don't care if they say they vote Republican or Democrat or any of that shit. They're all working for the same agenda. And that's what we should talk about next.
Right.
Whether it's Mark Cuban, whether it's Ballmer, whether it's what's your boy in New York for the Knicks, Nolan, whoever, they all work. They all think the same way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their thing is we're above you.
Mm-hmm.
We're above. We'll tell you what to do. You don't get to question us.
Yeah.
And our leaders, our union leaders, for example, not the player union leaders, but the people at the union. Oh, there's a couple of them that are over there that are good people, but when Michelle Roberts, I'm gonna just name names. Michelle Roberts, they pick her. Who do they think picked her?
Mm-hmm.
Who do they think selected Michelle Roberts? She was selected. She was the black woman, DC attorney, who came in with that legal literacy, that legal and financial literacy from her professional career that was meant to make a bunch of black men who probably had troubled family lives, a lot of us did, and make us feel like she's the black woman that we all wish we had, who knew the things that we needed to know to avoid the trouble that we got into. And now she's gonna go negotiate on behalf of us and what? And 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 now Adam Silver comes to the stage and says, yeah, we put a mental health professional on every staff, on every team, but huge but I'm not saying it won't come to bear on you come free agency. Oh, that's the best y'all could do? Of course, y'all are all in on it together.
Yeah.
And everybody gets, everybody getting big money now. Shout out to Jaylen Brown, just signed the biggest contract in NBA history, doing this
Yes,
thing as a part of the union and whatnot. And he tried to push the envelope too, and
yeah.
he's good enough to be able to push the envelope. But the deceiving part is the money is now so big
Mm-hmm.
that they're basically throwing. This is the other part people don't. This is a cartel, and I this is a cartel, bro.
Mm-hmm.
These people, what a cartel does, Mexican drug cartel, they're price setting. They're coming together. It's the Guadalajaras, the Tijuanas, the Sinaloas. They're coming together across the entire drug trade to set the price so that they can collect all the money instead of having individual competition all across the board. Random individual competition. They're making the price of entry into the industry
Mm-hmm.
so dangerous or so expensive that nobody can get in. That's exactly what the NBA owners have done.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have $2 billion to have a team. You got to be able to pay your best
Yeah.
player $300 million. You got to be able
Yeah.
to, you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now what effectively Now, when they go to pay a player $300 million, they can throw it away basically, and that's why a lot of not saying Jalen deserves the money, and players deserve to be paid more because the league is getting more. But the
Mhm.
dangerous part is people will equate them paying them the money with them caring about the player.
Right.
Like if he's going to pay you that much money, then they must
Right.
care about you.
Right.
They're printing the money.
Right.
They're printing the money in the basement of the Target Center. They're printing the money in the basement of the Staples Center. They're printing the money. They
Yeah.
own the market, so they don't have to worry about the money. The money is going
Right.
to come, and they're
Yeah.
working in conjunction with the networks. I
Right.
mean, they're
Right.
all printing money.
Right. Right. That's that perception. Yeah. I was the highest paid player with the Bucks when I retired. I was at the 44 contract, but the way they treated me, man. I didn't get the basic protocol. I got concussed. I blew out my orbital in my eye, and they let me go to sleep on the training table. They sent me home. I didn't go immediately to
Mm.
surgery. I went to surgery the next day when they X-ray. They found out I broke my face, but luckily my ex-wife was like, you can't go to sleep, and she kept me up. But there were a lot of factors that led me to retire. As far as like you said, they don't. The treatment isn't there. That doesn't mean they care about you because they pay you, and that was
Wasn't
my
it your wasn't
perception.
it your wasn't it your GM? Wasn't it the GM of the Bucks that said when I think there was an article where somebody asked, it was an ESPN article, and they asked a GM off the record, asked an owner. The GM went to the owner and said, "I don't know nothing about this mental health stuff. I need to learn. I'm not educated on this."
Hmm.
And the team owner told him, "I just gave him 35 million and $40 million worth of mental health." Ain't that go
Yeah,
pull that article up. I thought it was the Bucks owner, but I
yeah,
think they went anonymous, but I think the overall, what they were trying to infer in the article is it was related to your situation. But even the
yeah.
statement, even if it weren't the Bucks, the idea that somebody thinks they can give a player $40 million worth of mental health just goes to show you
Hmm.
they think that money equals sanity, not even happiness, sanity. And they've created that culture and you know what's crazy about it? A lot of people would think that too. A lot of people say that about us. What you got to complain about? You got millions of dollars. I make $40,000 a year. I make $80,000 a year. More money, more problems.
Right,
It's not that's not just a saying.
right, right.
When you make $40 million and you come from a black community, your mama, your sister, you got siblings, you got cousins and uncles, aunties may have took care of you. Everybody's having problems. Everybody has been systematically made poor by the very elites who give you $40 million, knowing you got to go spread it around when all their people got their own bank accounts and trust funds.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm not making it a black white thing. I'm really
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
because it's not. I don't mean to make it a black white thing, but that is the reality.
Hmm.
So you go make $100 million. Yeah, Jalen made $300 million, and I like where his mindset was. His first thing was, okay, how do I reinvest in the community? But how do I reinvest in a way where we can actually change the financial circumstance of our communities? Well, that's a political situation. That's a political, and they make it so y'all don't want to say anything. I mean, we don't want to say anything political. Look at LeBron. And
Right.
I said today on my podcast, it comes out at 9 tonight. I said, you got to be able to separate two things. And I had clips go viral criticizing LeBron, and everybody's like, damn, you hating on him.
Hmm.
If there's anybody's game who's similar to LeBron's, is mine, right? I mean, from a body and skill set standpoint, I'm not hating on LeBron personally. And everything he's doing at 40 years old is incredible. And I can separate that from the politics. And the politics, he's playing big me, little you politics with his position in the NBA.
Hmm.
I don't care how many players Clutch Sports has or helps out or none. That they know they know. It's like the school, for example. It's a perfect example. Nike, we're going to raise money for the I Hope Academy, and because LeBron is a very popular figure, and because he's whatever, we're going to make that seem like it's this huge improvement for the black community. We're going to take one school and enrich one school, one charter school, while the rest of the surrounding schools still suffer from the same policies that we created. And then when push comes to shove, come to find out the kids at the school ain't even been taught at a grade level. But it's all supposed to be this public kumbaya for black people to scratch each other's backs and pat each other on the butt and say, "Oh, we're doing it right. We're making progress." You know, Kamala Harris she's a vice president. You know, we're making this progress. It's like, guys, wake up. We're getting scammed here. And they knew I would say that then. That's why they had to get me away from y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Because they knew if I became an all-star, like I have the skills to be, shoot the ball, push the balls, fast, strong, biggest hands in the NBA draft history, court vision, anticipation, can see the play before it happens, intense, play with that dog, defend, the whole thing. If they let me become an all-star, these dudes was going to follow me. They was going to listen. They was gonna get to know me. I never even got to know LeBron and them. The whole point of what the NBA did to blackball me had nothing to do with my own career. It was to keep me away from those Negroes. If we let this Negro go connect with those Negroes, we're gonna have a mutiny.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have a mutiny on our hands. We can't let that happen because this nigga knows too much. And that's the truth. When I first got my first check, I
Mm-hmm.
asked the NBA to make my check out to my corporation. They said we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so y'all pay each other's corporations, but we
Right.
can't get the tax
Right.
benefits
Right.
of so I can't so I can sign with Andy Miller, or I could sign with Clutch Sports, or I could sign with Wasserman, or I could
Mm-hmm.
sign with CAA, okay? And you can pay and we can do business with them one way or another, or Nike can do business with them. We can do business with Nike, but we can't do business with you you can't sign yourself to your own corporation and pay your salary checks through your corporation. Why?
Right.
Why can't I be signed to my own company as a talent and as a basketball commodity
Mm-hmm.
and be paid my salary through my corporation? Because they
Right.
don't want you to be able to write anything off. They
Well, that
want to be able
makes
to write you off as
right.
an employee when they don't make even. And then not only that, the CBA, this is how stupid they think we are. This is how stupid we are. It ain't no thought. We are that stupid. Partly because the feeder system and the NCAA makes sure we're financially literate on the way. They just pass us through classes and they know we're gonna get poached at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
They make the players cover the spread of the losses of the owners in the CBA. We got to pay the 4%, which in
Mm-hmm.
any other league in the world, any other basketball league in the world, the team pays the agent 10%. Okay. We fix the rate at 4%, and we make the payers play the 4% out of our 51%.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do we pay the 4% out of 51%, which really makes it what? 47, 49.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got to cover the spread of the owner's losses until they make good on their investment. Are y'all seeing the economic imperialism, cartel? This is the stuff that they didn't want me talking about. It had nothing to do with mental health. Mental health was just a,
Mm-hmm.
was just a springboard.
Right. No, but it's with the wave of mental health and the way it's going, it is like a springboard because for what they thought was a reason people maybe would turn their ear is a reason why people would listen. A
Yeah.
lot of people are dealing with mental health. Like you said, it's not something that some bougie athletes are complaining about. This is something, a state of the nation, a state of the world. So,
Yes.
um, you know, I think there's a lot there in this journey. And want to say we're talking to Royce White today. Want to shout out the sponsors real quick. Well, we got a little time. Czar Wellness, thanks for coming up and sponsoring us. Go to czarwellness.com. They have THCA gummies, THCA flower that you can get anywhere in the nation. So THCA is a legal part of the hemp. And you can buy it at Czar Wellness. They also have a lot of informational stuff on there for, those dealing with epilepsy and different issues for health. So it's dope. It's real informative. And National Credit Resources. Shout out to them. Personally, deal with them, help me to fix my credit, get some stuff right, apply for loans, and just educate me on the business. So they're really good as far as educational stuff too. And it's National Credit Resources 750.com. I'll put it in the comments when we finish. Um, but yeah, let's continue, man.
Yeah.
Let's transition a little bit because you came
Okay.
into the big three, made a splash, got a chance to actually get on stage, man, which was I was like, I can't wait to see this guy play. Um, and I still love to see you play, bro. You're still one of my favorite players to watch.
Thank you, man.
Um, yeah, for sure. How has that been, man? Just being a part of the big three, that platform, that stage, and um, you know, how do you see that, your future with the big three?
And I love the Big Three. I mean, the Big Three is the only basketball I'm able to play really. Um, so I appreciate it a great deal. It means a lot in my life, and I take it serious. I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't had the chance that I haven't been a part of a championship team yet. Had a lot of turmoil. I mean, my first year with the enemies with Gil and them, Gil was on his last leg. He probably should have been retired already, but he was still wanting to play, but he was having some knee issues and whatnot. And then Lamar was still struggling with his deal. So we didn't really have a full team. That first year with the enemies had a lot of turmoil and whatnot. And then when I got with the power the first season, I got COVID in week 3. So I missed 4 weeks of that
Mhm,
season,
mhm,
and then the next season that we played all together was not this past season, but the one before where we went to the finals, and we lost the trilogy. And then this last year, I got injured, in week 4 or whatever. After we were number one, we were like 4-1.
mhm.
So just in a 10-week season, it's really tough to account for how 1 week is gonna make the difference, right? I
Yeah,
know you know that better than anybody, but it's
facts.
1 week, and not only 1 week, but it's the score of the game. I mean, it comes
Right.
down to a couple buckets, a difference of whether you're gonna be there at the end or not. So that's a crazy dynamic. But as far as the
Mhm.
basketball in general, I love it. I'm appreciative of Cuban them for allowing me a platform to play, not only play, but play in front of a national audience and speak my mind and be able to, compete in the game I love. So yeah, I'm gonna play in the big three until I can't anymore, until people think that I'm not valuable. I'm really young still. That's why I'm like, I'm
Right.
32.
Right.
That's not real young, but I'm young,
Young enough. Yeah.
young enough, yeah, 32, and really I got no miles on me. So my basketball years, I really think I'm like 28, 29 or something like that, because I sat a couple seasons out, 3, 4 seasons out. So, it's just I hope I can keep playing until my health doesn't permit me to, which should be a little bit here. So I'm looking forward to this season and being there, being healthy, playing more basketball during the year. Last
For sure.
season, I
Yeah.
last season I kind of got caught up. Well, not last season, but the season where we lost in the championship. I was caught up with the campaign. So last year I really was more ready physically to play, and I think this year I'm gonna be in even better shape. I'm working out with the high school team, pulling that Kobe
Yeah.
routine, going back and finding that high school hunger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
with a vengeance.
No, that's good, man. Do you see like you said doing an overseas bid or trying to punch back into the league or do anything like that, or how do
Yeah,
you
man,
feel?
the league will oh boy, you better
Come on.
stop. The league will never
Yeah.
the league will
You know
never
that
let
question.
me touch foot. That I'm scared they're gonna blackball my sons. My
Yeah.
son, I'm scared that they're gonna blackball everybody who's related to me. To be honest, because of how dangerous the shit I'm saying is. But yeah, they'll never let me back in the league. As far as overseas goes, though, the overseas things for me is more like where, right? Where would I? Because obviously I got big beef with China. That's
Mm,
just on the record. And so that whole Southeast Asian corridor is really run by China from a political standpoint. And
mhm,
Europe is cool, but Europe are trying little homie you still. And the
mhm,
problem with Europe is they only get a couple of international players per team.
mhm,
And so the problem I had with Europe, like when I was gonna go play in Torino for Italy, for Larry Brown, who I was really excited to do that. Actually, he ended up not staying the whole season because the way they was doing business out there, and now the team that no longer exists. But
mhm,
Torino's a beautiful city. I would have liked to play there. But anyway, the thing about that is, they'll try and lowball you. like on some like they try to bring the reference into my NBA stuff in reference to our negotiations, and I'm like, stop playing.
Mhm.
So, that's part of, and then now since seeing what happened during COVID with in Europe and just knowing that at any moment we could have another pandemic per what they say. I mean, that's not me talking. That's the medical experts that a
Mhm.
pandemic's always coming. I ain't like seeing how a lot of international players got caught and trapped basically in their country playing when that went down.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to put myself at risk for that. I've been thinking lately about doing a stint in the DR or in Puerto Rico or something like that, just to play some 5-on-5 and have some fun.
Mhm.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I could. Puerto Rico, DR. That's that's close enough. You got the
Yeah,
family right there.
yeah,
The time zone ain't all crazy. So yeah, that would be a good idea. I consider that myself too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. So and then you transition. I don't even know if you transition. I from what I've known and seen, you've always been in politics. You've always had some
Right,
kind of political stance.
right.
Um, this journey that you're on, talk about that a little bit. How what got you
Yeah,
into politics? What drove
yeah.
you?
The political thing was really, um, again, yeah, like you said, my fight with the NBA was political, and I don't mean it was political like issues. I mean, it was political, like we talking about policy. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, what is the policy on paper? So, I was already in politics. You could say this whole 7-8 years I was fighting the NBA, and I realized, like you said, yeah, on day one when I kind of got into the NBA and I'm off the scene, people are like, "Oh, well, he's just done." But behind the scenes, I'm fighting to get back in the league. I'm fighting to have this
Right.
policy put in place and whatnot. So it went on for like 6-7 years, really, until I finally was just like, "Oh, well," until Adam Silver and Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, that whole thing happened, and they ended up putting a policy in place that I wrote. So I was like, "Well, that chapter's done." And then I wrote a letter like, "Hey, now that y'all put the policy in place that I was saying the whole time, y'all think y'all can let me play?" And they were like, wouldn't even invite me to training camp, which is crazy. I mean, we know players that shouldn't even be playing basketball at a professional level anywhere, let alone the NBA, that can go to
Mm.
training camp.
Wow.
They wouldn't
So
even they wouldn't even let me go to training camp. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I see what type of time it is." So,
wow.
yeah, so that was always political, but the thing that really kicked it off was George Floyd.
Hmm.
Because I had been gone from home, and I love home to death. I love Minnesota to death. That's why I still live here now. That's why I'm running for office here now, because it's dear to my heart.
Hmm.
But when you go to play college and then you go get drafted and then you go play in Canada, right? And you go and you're moving around, you kind of lose touch with the local politics. And I had kind of lost touch with what was going on here locally in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities until the George Floyd thing popped off. And I was like, oh, y'all think y'all about to use George Floyd to push uh more information, more misinformation, more the BS.
Hmm.
So I basically took a group of my fellow athletes that were here in Minnesota, and I organized these protests, these demonstrations, and I took us to places like the Federal Reserve and talked about banking and fractional reserve banking and how that whole Ponzi scheme works as an unconstitutional tax on the American people, and most importantly, the working class. And people were pissed off about that in the community. The
Hmm.
black folks, they was like, "Why are you talking about this? We trying to talk about cops, racism, the LGBTQ, the environment, climate change. I want to talk about the money.
Hmm.
Y'all keep skipping the money,
Right.
okay? We could talk about those issues all you want to, but until we address the money issue, we got problems." And,
Right.
and so the police, they get a paycheck from somebody. The city employees, they get paychecks. When they go to build an arena, somebody pays for that. Usually it's the taxpayer, okay?
Hmm.
This type of US Bank Stadium, Minnesota Vikings, who paid for it? The taxpayer. This is where we pulling up to. What does let US Bank come out and speak, right? Okay? So this is what I was doing, and what I realized is that the grassroots activism in Minneapolis was reflective of the grassroots activism all across the country, which was very focused on cultural wedge issues like the LGBTQ. And
Hmm.
I was insulted that they would use George Floyd's death and his name, and the tragedy of his loss and anybody else connected to it, whether it be his daughter or Stack or his whoever, whoever was connected to George Floyd, that they would use it to try and push Black trans lives matter.
Mm.
That insulted me, and I said, uh, it that ain't even a thought to me. I mean, a Black man just was killed, and y'all are talking about sexual politics. I'm not going. I'm not even. I don't even understand how we got who are y'all? Matter of fact, now that I think about it, I'm from here. I was born and raised here. Who are y'all? Like the people who stepped up as activists to speak on behalf of the community when the cameras are on.
Hmm.
Where did y'all come from? Because I don't know you.
Hmm.
I don't know you to have been in no wakes. I don't know you to have been in no funerals, no barbecues, no school field trips from the city schools. Oh, so you talking on behalf of the community, but I don't know you to have been from the community. Me,
Right.
I could point out where my first kiss was, where my first fight was. I'm from these streets, okay? And what you find out is you got a lot of people who go to college somewhere else, they get imported, they get recruited, imported, and now all of a sudden they speaking on behalf of your community. And they
Right.
might even be Black,
Right.
but that don't mean they from
9 times out of 10, they black. Yeah.
9 times out of 10 they Black, but that
Yeah.
don't mean they from your community. So when they try to turn they little what do you use hostility towards me, I was like, it's go time. I'm running for office then. Yeah,
Right.
now let's take it all the way.
Hmm.
So
So
that's how I
what
ran for Congress. Ran for
Congress?
Congress in 22, and now I'm
Hmm.
running for Senate, United States Senate, here in 24 against Amy Klobuchar.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna keep running
Yeah.
until people get it.
How's that? How can we support you, bro? How can we support what you got going on? Like, how can people find this?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to my website. My campaign website is roycewhite.us. That's my Senate campaign, and you can see the platform, some of the issues I'm running on. And you could donate there, whatever helps. You could also mail checks and stuff like that. But the support is really in the understanding.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing people could do to support me is have the courage to open their mind to what it is that I'm trying to say to them and understand that it's going to be inconvenient. It's going to
Hmm.
challenge the people that you know, the relationships you have, family, the dinner table, the barbecue. Like this Donald Trump thing, for example. People are like, how you get all the way from protesting during George Floyd to supporting Donald Trump? And I said, you people aren't getting what's going on here in America today, and you don't understand the history of the politics, so it's hard for you to understand the politics today. You understand what they're telling you on MSNBC, but it's very simple. We want a limited government. If you're saying that the whole system is racist or guilty or oppressive or corrupt or whatever you want to say, including police departments, expanding the federal government will only make that worse. And that's the cornerstone of the Democrat platform, the
Hmm.
Democrat Party's platform. They want more social programs. If you have more social programs, whether it's for Black people, poor moms, immigrants, whoever it is, if you have more social programs, there's more money for the government. The bigger the government gets, the bigger government agencies get. The more they treat you, the citizen at home from your community, like nothing.
Hmm.
And so that's a very easy concept. We don't want the system you say is guilty to get bigger. We want it to get smaller. And secondly is again an issue like the border, for example. Look, my grandmother was a first generation immigrant from Aguas Calientes, Mexico. She came across the border. My other grandmother was a first generation immigrant from Norway. She came
Hmm.
across the water on a boat. Immigration is one thing. Legal immigration is one thing. Illegal immigration is targeted at the Black community. When they try and flood our country with low cost labor, what they're saying two things. One, they're saying you working class and poor Americans, Black, white, or anything else, y'all won't do these jobs because we don't pay you enough to do these jobs.
Hmm.
We want to keep our margins high. We want to
Right.
keep our profits high. So we're
Right.
not going to increase the minimum wage that we pay you for the jobs that used to be this much, and now they need to come up because the cost of living has risen. So we're
Right.
going to import illegal immigrants and have them do it at a lower cost. All that does is take the jobs away from us,
Right.
right? And it's like, and now you're seeing in Chicago, a place like Chicago of all places. Shout out to your boy Justin Dentman. He from Illinois. Shout out to Jeremy Pargo and the Pargo, but they
Hmm.
from Chicago.
That's
A
good.
lot of people from Chicago and Ricky Davis, a bunch of people from
Yep.
Chicago in our league. But um, the people in Chicago, they're standing up now saying, y'all are sending illegal immigrants to Chicago and giving them $2,000 a month.
Well, that's the fall of Detroit, right? That's why Detroit was Black Hollywood. You know, they had all those guys. Everyone was working at those factories, and all of a sudden, you know,
And so
hey,
my
yeah,
point
you're
is
right.
my point is the other issue with the border is not only our border at the southern border with people crossing the border, but this sense of economic borders and economic nationalism where people will say nationalism, they go, oh, you're a Nazi or you're a fascist. No, we don't want to sell out our working class and our poor working citizens.
Hmm.
We don't
Hmm.
want to trade their labor away. We want people to be able to work a job, and we want them to be able to work a job at a decent salary so they can have a living and live a good life, but still have this sense of dignity and pride in work, not living on some universal basic income that again is going to expand the government. If the government got to pay you your monthly check, you a slave.
Hmm. Hmm.
There ain't no question about it. I don't even know where black people get off thinking they want universal basic income. You're
Hmm.
gonna be a slave. The government's gonna tell you either you do this, this, or this, or we ain't sending that check this month.
Hmm.
Same as being on a slave plantation and telling you you better pick cotton or else you ain't gonna get a meal. And we might even stick the dogs on you if you really get to acting up. Or maybe we just having a bad day. Nothing ever changes under the sun. It just morphs. So,
Right.
ideas like that is like what I'm trying to get across. And look, Donald Trump ain't the perfect candidate. He says a lot of stuff I don't agree with, and a lot of people, probably don't agree with and whatnot. But the ideas that are there that I just articulated, like for example, about the border and about the working class and about, these are the ideas that we need to hone in on. And I'm hoping that black people are gonna finally step up like the OG Ice Cube tried to have us do the last election and say, man, we got to start to ask ourselves, what are we getting out of this thing?
Hmm.
We can't just keep voting Democrat and expecting things to change. And then when they don't change, we go, well, why didn't it change?
Right. Right.
Well, they just lied to you. That's all. They told you they was going to do it and they didn't do it. I mean, how many times your
Hmm.
girl got to come home late with a hickey on her neck for you to know she was cheating on you?
Right. Right. Right.
You feel
Facts.
me?
Hmm.
So that's where I'm at with the politics. I'm just trying to spread the good word, man.
Nah, nah, I love it. I love it, bro. It's informative, right? There's so much that just we don't know, as a whole. So it takes leaders, it takes people to kind of go in there and get their feet dirty, get their face dirty, and come out and tell some stories, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely appreciate that. I want to end it on a good note. So I want to talk a little bit about fatherhood, man. I want to talk with you. You're a
Ooh.
dad,
Yeah.
and I'm a father as well. I got 4 kids, man. They back there. I told them to be quiet. They can't even be quiet. They still back there making noise. But let's talk about it, man. Tell me. I want to dig into some of the challenges first. What do you find is some of the biggest challenges about being a father?
Yeah, the biggest challenge I think for me is expecting my son to be, your son, your kids end up being the spitting image of you because genetics are a monster, boy. You could look at little Royce, and you've seen him, and there's a clip of
Hmm.
me, bringing him out with the Jesus is King shirt and whatnot, and I mean, he's just like my twin, right?
Yeah.
And somewhat you expect them to act like you or think like you, and that's just not how human beings work. That's not how life works. And in that way, it goes back to saying nature versus nurture. Some of it is genetics, but some of it is how you're raised. And even like right now with me training him with basketball, there's a certain grit, there's a certain intensity that I just want to be able to instill in him. But and you can train people, but some of it they got to find on their own, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges is knowing when to back off and just kind of let your kids be your kids, and then when to be firm and make sure that that they're not falling off course too much, from what you would perceive or deem to be a good path for them to be successful. So that's a
Mhm.
balancing act, you know what I mean? And parents, we always, at least for me, I got 4 kids. It's like you wanna make every little you wanna micromanage them, but sometimes you gotta let them go out there and fall on their head a little bit too.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah.
a lot of what was best about how I turned out was falling on my head a little bit,
Yeah.
being out there and experiencing it and learning from that. So you can't shelter them either. And then at the same time, you understand as a parent that when you let a kid fall on their head, it could be fatal. Right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the risk you run, that's the tragedy, and also the gift of life. I mean, if it was all perfect, we'd be robots. So, the rain makes the sunshine, mean something. But as a father, you love your kids and you want them to be safe, you want to protect them, but you also want them to be able to grow up and learn to do things on their own. So that balance is always the challenge, right?
That is a challenge. That definitely is, bro. Because it's like, you think about yourself, you take ourselves back to us as kids. And like you said, how many times did we have to bump our heads before we got it right? And
Yeah,
sometimes you want to get it in their head before that happens, but so that's the best teacher. Sometimes they gotta hit their head. So,
yeah.
um, what through these years of being a parent, what's your favorite part? What's your favorite part about being a dad?
Man, my favorite part is the love. You know what I mean? It's the love. It's for me, my father wasn't in the home, so just to see the love and the how much stock my children place on my opinion, and of them and just my presence, you know what I mean, is something that I didn't really get to see. So I really value it. I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the love, like my daughter, she's going out for a school play. So she was downstairs working on her lines and whatnot, and she comes upstairs and I could hear her, and I'm like, you're doing a good job, and she just gets that daughter look on her face, like, man, my dad's here and he hears what I'm trying to do, and it's just that love. So the love is the most beautiful part in my opinion. And then seeing them grow up, they grow quick. It happens fast, and you grow, you get old. I got the grays coming in the beard now. They've been there for a couple years, but just feels like a few more every couple weeks. But they just grow like weeds, and I'm thinking about having some more because I just love seeing them grow. I love seeing them grow. Now thinking back on looking at pictures of when they were just babies, now 11, 12, going on 13, you know what I mean? It's like, damn, that was me. That was me growing up at one point, and it's a beautiful thing. They're healthy, so God is great.
So well, I look forward to seeing them this summer too, man. I know they're gonna be a foot bigger. And that's
Oh yeah,
crazy how fast these kids grow. Every time man, this big three's been a great experience just to have that camaraderie, but also see the kids grow up. It's been dope.
no
Um,
doubt.
yeah, man. Drop some gems. I want to leave the people with some gems
Yeah,
that
yeah. I mean,
things you've learned.
I gotta go political because this is the political season. But I just want to say, I said on my podcast, first off, if you want to go listen to podcasts, it comes on tonight at 9. But I just want to say to people out there, there's this idea floating around that um, Americans, that we as black people shouldn't consider ourselves because America's never been nice to us. And some of that is true. We've had a hard time in America. But there's something about America that's put us in a position that we rarely find ourselves in anywhere else in the world. And when we compare it to anywhere else in the world, you don't see black people really being invited into any country with open arms and being pushed to the top of anything or having the ability to get to the top of anything. Like, for example, ain't none of us gonna be a part of the royal family. I know they made an exception for Meghan Markle and Harry. I think it's Prince Harry. He had to damn near smuggle her into the castle, right? and he got excommunicated for that, and him and her left the royal family. It's the first time, not the first time, but he left the
Hmm.
royal family because he had a girl who had a little melanin in her, and that scene is uncouth. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah.
She's barely black herself. But my point is, I'm barely black in myself, some people say, but I'm not even talking about race.
Right.
My point is that black people in this country are being convinced by people in this country that our citizenship doesn't have value.
Mm.
And that just blows my mind. That just blows my mind completely. It's like, do you understand what's articulated in those founding documents about freedom? And yeah, at the time when they were written, we were still slaves, but it was that very document that was used to make the argument that we should be free and eventually freed us. It's the same document that was used to end segregation. First, it was Frederick Douglass, who was a Republican. Then it was Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who were both conservative. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to throw the Constitution out to become citizens of the whole world, and I'm supposed to give over to some international agency in Europe, or give over to China, China, who's as racist as anybody. I mean, they're ethno national to boot. I mean, if you're not Han Chinese, even if you're Chinese, if you're not Han Chinese, you're considered a second class citizen. They definitely ain't letting black people pop up over in China and go to the
Mhm.
top of the society.
Right.
So, America offers us something unique, and
Mhm.
if we're not careful, and if we don't step up and take our rightful place as citizens in this country and defend that, and make it unique to us, and give back to this country. And I don't mean give back like we haven't given, but I mean give back and contribute in elevating it politically, which we
Mhm.
have the chance to do right now. We may lose that freedom altogether. We may have lost the freedom just as soon as we got it. We ain't been that long since we've been free here,
Mhm.
or since we've had certain rights, and they can be taken away. And trust me when I say this, and I'll leave with this. The most important issue right now is the Second Amendment. The most important issue is the police state. And I tell you this, if you let these white liberal women tell you that the KKK is afoot, that the police are the KKK, and you should
Mhm.
call the cops when the KKK show up, you deserve whatever whatever it is that comes to you, because you don't understand what it is to be American. And a lot
Mhm.
of white Republicans and conservatives don't even really understand what it means to be American. So it's not really a racial thing, but it's more about the ideas. Like, our founding fathers were smart enough to know that you should be your first line of defense.
Mhm.
That when all else fails, you better not trust that the government or some law enforcement agency is going to get there to save you or your family. And
Mhm.
I think I understand that better than anything now as a father. Is like, if somebody decides to kick that door down at night, I'm there.
Yeah.
The police
Right.
ain't there. The government ain't there. Joe
Right.
Biden ain't there. Donald Trump, and nobody's there. It's just me and my family. And
Mhm.
I was given the Second Amendment right to be my first line of defense. Now, what comes with that is the tragedy. Some people are going to take those guns and do stupid things.
Mhm.
But overall, the net value of being able to defend yourself outweighs the occasional yet still tragic and sad when somebody goes off and shoots up a school. That's just the
Mhm.
reality.
Right.
That's just the reality, man. If you're gonna tell me the KKK is afoot, then why am I giving my gun up?
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
understand. I don't understand the logic. The math ain't math in white people, white woman. So, and that's something that we gotta. I want all black people to go get trained in how to carry firearms responsibly. I want all black people to understand their Second Amendment rights. I want them to vote on
Mhm.
behalf of politicians who will protect their Second Amendment rights, so that
Right.
if push comes to shove, they can protect themselves and their family with some good utility.
Right. No, I love it, bro. I love it. I love it. Point two, take advantage of the moment. I think that's critical. What you said. Us understanding where we are in time, right, and how we may complain about America. We may say, but we compare ourselves to other, countries. This is where we have the opportunity to take advantage and actually solidify a position, right? Rise to the top, like you said, which is a great point. It's a struggle. Our rise is harder than the next man's rise, but it is a rise that's possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very key, very, very key point. That's a shift in mindset that needs to be adopted.
Well, and the other thing is just from a practical standpoint. Just ask yourself where you're going. If you black out there, where you going? You think the people in Angola or Liberia or Nigeria consider you family? Consider you? I mean, come on, man. I
Right.
mean, you gotta be
Right.
realistic. Where you going to the
Mhm.
Middle East? You going to live in the out there with the Kurds and
Right.
the Yemenis or the Saudis? Or if you got some money, maybe you got some money, they'll create an exception for you, but you ain't just showing up to any of these countries and being granted rights. It ain't
Right.
happening. So
Mhm.
any Democrat who tells you should trade your American citizenship for a global citizenship without showing you some paperwork or showing you some type of proof that you're going to have the same type of rights on the world stage that you have on this stage, you know, you got to question that. Where are we
Mhm.
headed? Where are we going if we ain't about to make the best out of what we have here? If somebody has an idea, please tell me. If you think
Mhm.
we all going back to Africa, lead the way. You go first.
Right. Go get it warm for me. Right.
You feel
Nah,
me?
for real.
Go there
Nah.
and tell me what is go there and to send word back. Tell us what is popping for. This is what they say in the neighborhood.
For real, for real.
Uh-huh.
Nah, man. Well, man. Hey, I don't want to hold you up too much. It's been great, bro. It's been really talked about some good stuff, bro. We dove deep. We gave perspective. Um, talked about political journey, broke down your childhood a little bit, man. We're excited. I'm super excited just to see all this develop. I feel like this is still you still baby Royce right now. So
Yeah.
the future's bright, bro, and I'm happy to be on it with you this journey. And thank you, bro. We're gonna tune in tonight at 9 and check out what you got going on. After this show, we're going over to Twitter. We're going over to X, they say, and we got an after party, and we'll have a lot of just some great minds on there, some other professionals, some gurus, and a good community. We're gonna talk about some Web3 stuff on there too. That's that community. So man, if you get a chance, come on there. But I appreciate your time. I think of my son, he running out. He can't even wait the hour. I told him to.
Man, thanks, bro. I love you, man. Appreciate the opportunity. You know it's all love. It's always gonna be love. You one of them ones, man. We appreciate what you stand for, the stands you took, how much you shared your journey and your struggle and just everything that you've been through. We one and the same damn near. So I appreciate you. I can't wait to see you this summer. You got to come out to Minnesota and hang with me, but wait till the snow melts though.
Nah, for sure. I don't like that snow. I ain't doing that snow. But I always tell people, man, Malcolm Martin, man, that's what you get with us.
Yeah,
But I
facts, man.
appreciate you, dog. I
Facts.
appreciate you for sure, man.
Love,
Let's
bro.
keep this thing going. Love, man. Peace.
Peace.
And Sanders says, I'm gonna throw some sponsors up real quick. Get back to the original screen. Got Zarwans, Zarwans.com. Y'all tap in, get your gummies, get your topicals, get your smokes, great flour, get your flour there. National Credit Resources, anybody looking to get their credit right, work on get a business loan, credit loan. National Credit Resources 750.com. That's where you go. And I work with them personally, so great relationship. Appreciate everybody for tapping in today. We do this every Monday. So next Monday, same time. Look forward to the guests we're gonna have. And I always say, happy Monday. Peace.